There's something precious about Rachel Notley arguing that she knows the pulse of Albertans better than Jason Kenney because he's been out of the province too long?
Politicians who leave Alberta and then come back a decade and a half later run the risk of making some unfortunate assumptions about what Alberta is like and what Albertans care about. I believe they like to have their choices respected, and I believe that Albertans, being a young, modern, diverse province, have a very different view on a number of key issues, and those are the values that we talked about in the last election, and we are now moving forward, developing a record that reflects what we talked about in the last election, and that I will be very, very proud and keen to present to Albertans in the next one.
Of course, Jason Kenney has lived in Alberta for most of his life. He's been an Alberta MP for 19 years. I met him years before that when he was in his 20s running the Canadian Taxpayers Federation out of Edmonton. Since 1997, though, he's represented Calgary Southeast, now called Calgary Midnapore, to Parliament. That's a lot longer than Notley's been in politics. It's pretty weird for someone to argue that being an MP from Calgary means you're not a real Albertan just because the House of Commons itself is based in Ottawa. It's even weirder, given that Rachel Notley is the one making these criticisms. Notley herself really did abandon Alberta to go to work for the NDP in British Columbia from 1994 to 2002. She wasn't commuting there. She wasn't out there to represent Alberta. She became a British Columbian because she put working for the NDP ahead of working for Alberta. Her first loyalty is to her party and to the big labor unions. We know that. Notley's been back in Alberta for a decade, but it's a bit rich that she'd accuse other people of not being Alberta enough. Even weirder, when you look at the senior staff she has hired to run the province for her. Her own chief of staff, Brian Topp, is a union organizer from Toronto. Notley's Calgary outreach manager is an anti-pipeline activist from Vancouver. The environment minister's chief of staff is a former violent criminal from Manitoba who served time in jail. Notley's energy minister's chief of staff is an anti-oil lobbyist from Toronto. In fact, 10 out of 12 of her first chiefs of staff were from outside of Alberta, but Kenney is the one out of touch with the province. Hey, can I show you some numbers? Rachel Notley has run in 3 elections, 2008, 2012, and 2015. In those 3 elections, she has received, in total, a combined 28,955 votes. Okay. Well, in the last election alone, Kenney got 42,415 votes. In fact, if you add up Kenney's votes in all his elections, he's received a whopping 272,000 votes. In fact, the entire NDP in the whole last election received just over 600,000 votes. That's even including the votes received by NDP candidates who lost. So Jason Kenney, in his personal career, has received almost half as many votes as the entire NDP in the last election, all 80-plus NDP candidates. Jason Kenney hasn't even resigned as MP yet. That's going to happen in a few months. The official race for the Alberta PC party hasn't even officially begun yet, but Kenney sure got the NDP rattled, hasn't he? For the Rebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant. Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.